This is Tom and Paula Grace from Light of Christ Radio with a story from our Parables of Holy Week series.
You are welcome to watch this video simply for the story, or you can use it as a basis of a small group study.
The small group study instructions are below the video in the More section.
Today we continue our series Parables of Holy Week with the parable of the three servants from Matthew 25.
Well, Paula, as we begin our conversation today, we want to set the context of our story.
And I think Jesus knew his time on earth is coming to an end. In his last teachings at the temple, he begins to prepare his followers for what will come after the crucifixion.
Yeah, and there Jesus compared the temple to a fruitless fig tree. Then he explained how the Jewish leadership is like wicked tenants that have stolen and killed.
Jesus compared his kingdom to a king and a banquet. Many who are invited will refuse to come, so others will be invited.
He has also explained that his authority comes from God.
And he's begun to teach about the time of his return. It will be a time of judgment and giving account for one's life.
Yeah, no one knows when this will happen, so they always must be ready. He used the parable of the 10 virgins to explain that.
And then Jesus moved on to another parable about the kingdom of heaven. The bag of silver referred to in this parable was also called a talent, which brings us to a story from the Word of God.
Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it each in proportion to their abilities. He then left on this trip.
The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earn 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money.
After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, "Master,
you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more.
The master was full of praise. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together."
The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more.
The master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together."
Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, "Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I'd lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back."
But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I have harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it." Then he ordered, "Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with the 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have, it will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth."
And this is a story from the Word of God.
If you are using this video for a small group application, after you've watched this video, try retelling the story from what you have heard.
Then read the text. Discussion questions are below the video in the More section.
We hope you'll discover something from this story to apply to your everyday life.
May you be blessed.